I just got my hands on the new Anbernic RG35XX, and I must confess that when the company announced this handheld, it seemed to me it was just an RG351P with Wi-Fi and HDMI out, so I wasn't very excited. But after spending some time with it, I completely changed my mind, and now I'm gonna tell you why. Welcome to the Oasis. Quick unboxing: box, handheld, cable, manual, wipes, screen protector. As I mentioned before, it looks just like the RG351P, but instead of the RK3326 chip, we have the all-winner 8700 quad-core, the same processor found in the recently launched RG35XX Plus. The specs are the same as this model, but now we have a horizontal device, which is preferred by many people, and two analog sticks that will be useful for systems like Dreamcast, PSP, and Nintendo 64. It is available in 3 different colors: the translucent purple I have here, translucent white, and black. The RG35XX is priced at $68 at the time of this video. I left the link to Anbernic's official website in the description. If you could please take this moment to like this video now and hit the subscribe button, I'll appreciate. Much obliged. The D-pad is the same as the 35XX Plus, one that first appeared on the RG405M. By now, the company has perfected its D-pad, and it's very comfortable for retro games. I think the only one better than this is the one used on the Odin 2, which is smaller and inspired by the PS Vita. This is the size difference between them. It's soft with a good rotation, and the rounded edges take it easy on your thumb. In my tests, I had 0 problems with false diagonals. It's quite protruding, and when pressed, it rests well above the shell, which is great. Unfortunately, the thumbsticks are the same as the company's older consoles and the same as the Nintendo Switch. It's a pity they didn't use Hall sensors, but if we think about it, it makes sense for a device in this price range. They're certainly not the best, but they get the job done. Good thing they are recessed and they won't snag in your pocket. The face buttons are great, glossy, and slightly rounded. Same used in the premium RG405M. Like the D-pad, they are elevated and when pressed stay above the casing. They are relatively silent compared to other handhelds. They are 7.7mm, the same size as the previous model and the Mio Mini Plus. But I honestly prefer the ones on the Mio Mini. They are softer and you need less force to press them. While here, it seems that the spring use is a bit stronger and offers a bit more resistance. But this is just personal preference. It doesn't have a big impact in gameplay. The shoulder buttons follow the line of the older Anbernic consoles. They are aligned, which in my opinion is pretty uncomfortable. They are certainly not the best for games that make heavy use of them, especially if they use L2 and R2 a lot. At least these, which would be the triggers, are slightly higher to help you differentiate them. Also, most retro systems available here won't make much use of them. They're very clicky and have a short travel. Moving on to the build quality, we have the Anbernic standard that we already know and love. The company has an excellent manufacturing process where the molds leave the buttons and the plastic of the casing with a fantastic finish. Everything is smooth with no edges or residues. Just holding it, you can feel the quality. As for ergonomics, for many people it's an upgrade from the vertical model. And although I prefer Game Boy style handhelds for nostalgic reasons, I have to admit that a horizontal device is more comfortable for longer gaming sessions. But I still have my reservations about this grip because of the shoulder buttons. For most retro games that use the D-pad and face buttons, it's great, and the hand stays in a very good position. For games that use both analog sticks, it's a different story, especially if you need to support the console with the inside of your hands. A more rounded grip like the RG353P or the RG Arc is much more suitable for a handheld console. They're much more comfortable and fit better in your hands. On the back, we have the 2 rubber grips that was Anbernic's thing in several previous devices. We can also see the battery here, which is 3300 mAh, giving you 6 to 8 hours of gameplay depending on what you're playing. As for size, we have several handhelds within this range. It's very portable and fits easily in your pocket. Here is the comparison with other models. As for weight, it's 183 grams or 6.45 ounces, which is perfectly acceptable for a handheld this size. It's very comfortable to hold. Here's the weight for other consoles for comparison. Jumping to software, it's the same Anbernic uses on the 35XX Plus. It's simple and basic, but it does its job. I won't go into many details because I've talked about it in my review of the 35XX Plus. The card is right here if you want to check it out. The important thing is that you can save, load, and adjust the screen ratio, which for me is essential in a retro handheld. It's a pity that it didn't come with the Garlic OS. Anbernic shipped some of the previous models with this firmware and it's great. One difference I noticed in this software compared to the other model is that now there is no option to upscale the original PlayStation. I mentioned this in my review of the RG35XX Plus, that the device is capable of running upscale PlayStation without problems, and the image looked beautiful on this 3.5 screen. But for some reason, the option is not available here. The firmware version is different on these two devices, but possibly Anbernic can make this feature available in a future update. The display is identical to the one used in the previous model without any changes. Placing the two devices side by side with maximum brightness, I couldn't distinguish any difference between the two. The screen is beautiful, clear, and have vibrant colors. Being a 3:4 aspect ratio, it's perfect for most systems here. But I still think the screen on the Mio Mini Plus is better. It has a bit more brightness and the colors seem closer to the original game. The 35XX tends to pull more towards violet, and because of that it seems more saturated, but it's not a real saturation. It takes away a bit of originality. But for sure, you won't notice if you don't have a Mio Mini Plus to compare. Overall, the screen on the 35XXH is great and perfect for these games. All 8, 16 and 32-bit systems work beautifully here, and you won't have problems with them. The original Game Boy, for example, starts like this in black and white, but if you start the game through RetroArch, you have the option to add the original colorization. Just press the function button here, go to Options, and in GB colorization you select Internal. It looks more nostalgic like the Game Boy DMG. Nintendo DS also works great, but since the screen is only 3.5 inches, it's difficult to play with both DS screens showing at the same time. If I'm going to play DS here, I'll look for games where the secondary screen is not missed. I had to put my own Nintendo 64 games on this card because it didn't come with any. And it's very simple, just copy the ROMs into the Nintendo 64 system folder. And not all games will run 100%, but most of them are very playable. Even Cruising Exotica, which is harder to run on weaker hardware, worked well. It's not a maximum speed, but it's almost there. But to get this kind of performance, I had to change the RetroArch core from parallel to MuPen 64 before starting the games. The original PlayStation runs everything without problems. Dreamcast also works very well. You'll be surprised with the number of games that run at 60 FPS. Even games that are harder to emulate, even if they don't reach 60, are perfectly playable. PSP also plays relatively well on this handheld. Many games will run great at the correct speed, but heavier games you will need to add frame skip in the settings to make them playable. Surely you will notice the difference with the frame skip, but at least you'll be able to play what you want. The Anbernic RG35XX is a great device if you're looking for something practical and portable for your daily life, but you don't want a vertical handheld. With the small size, we also have some limitations. You end up compromising with some harder to emulate systems. But if you are aware of these limitations, I see no reason not to recommend this handheld for some gameplay on the bus, in a queue at the bank, or at a waiting room. But if you want to see the review for the best Android handheld console in the market right now, click right here. But before that, like, subscribe, and follow us.